So welcome. This is the 7 essential social skills and awarenesses your child needs to succeed. My name is Mike Fogel. I'm an art therapist and a licensed professional counselor out of the Philadelphia area. And what I'm sharing tonight are the very foundation of all social skills. It's applicable to people of all ages, and you need only change some of the language to make it more sophisticated for teens or adults, but nevertheless, the concepts are true. And I am the founder and director of the Child and Family Art Therapy Center, the Art of Friendship, and Camp Pegasus. And you can find all those online. Okay. And this is the first of 3 presentations, 2 weeks apart, in celebration of the national release of my book, which is not specifically about the social skills we're going to talk about today, but my book, the Social Emotional Guidebook, is all about how you, caregivers, parents, professionals, and educators can reinforce kids' practice. You can motivate kids to repeat their learned social skills until they become habit. You also can learn how to shape behavior towards improving coping skills and social skills. And another secondary objective of the book is to help decrease power struggles and increase kids' participation when you're trying to talk through social moments, when something goes wrong, if there's a social miscue, or if there's a problem to solve. So this is a resource for you. Check that out. But today, we're going to be talking about a specific language that can help you to teach and talk about social awareness, social cognition, and the skills that kids need to do to execute those awarenesses. And we're going to do it a cognitive behavioral way. And so by cognitive behavioral, what I mean is we are going to first give the kids awareness and help them understand what their social task is. And then there's usually a behavioral takeaway, a do. What are you going to do with this to get along better, to succeed academically, socially, and so on? So that's our topic for today. And everyone needs social skills, but especially people with social skills challenges. And I coined a term which is called social emotional cognitive challenges, SECCs. And so this term is an umbrella that includes across many different diagnoses, all of which are brain-based, neurologically driven autism, ADHD, learning differences, and then related neurodevelopmental differences. So these are all unique diagnoses if you're thinking medical model, but we don't really go medical model. In our practice, we really think about each individual as an individual, and with social skills and coping skills as a bit of a, like a graphic equalizer. Ever remember these on stereos? Each of these bottom little sliders in music has like a different frequency of sound, and so you can adjust the bass, the middle range, the treble. Well, with people, each of those would represent a unique social skill. And there are dozens of unique social competencies and awarenesses that we need to have in order to execute socially. And this is what makes for individual differences and why every single person is unique, because there are even more sliders than this. But if you nudge one up a little bit, if someone is stronger at eye contact, but weaker at assertiveness, someone's stronger in flexibility, someone else is weaker in problem solving, that leads to who they are, right? And so beyond diagnosis, everybody needs social skills. We all have these, and everyone has, most likely, one of their sliders or a number of their sliders are lower, are weaker. And when enough of them are weaker, or if a number of them are sort of very low, sort of towards the bottom, that means they're very gappy. They have certain gaps in their social thinking, their social cognition, and that's what leads to social challenges. And so sort of the accepted treatment for kids with social skills challenges is one piece of it rather is direct instruction. We'll talk about why that is. And here's an overview of the social emotional cognitive challenges that we're going to cover today. And each of these that I bullet point is going to have a lesson or some way that you can talk about it. Okay, so begins with inferencing. social rules? What are the hidden rules of socialization and friendship? That's hard for kids that's a social, emotional, cognitive challenge. Big picture thinking. Our gang are great at narrow focus, detailed thinking in many cases, but big picture thinking can be harder for them. Theory of mind, we're going to talk about that later. Perspective taking, reading nonverbal social cues. How do you even begin to do that? Rigid and inflexible thinking, we're going to talk about how to help kids understand the costs, the consequences of having that type of thinking, and then what are the alternatives? How can you develop flexibility? And then the last bullet point has 3 subpoints. Social pragmatic language is using language to navigate your social world. And so assertiveness skills, problem solving, and negotiation and compromise. So when these things are weaker, it's harder to enter the world and succeed. So that's what we're going to cover today. Okay, so the first SECC we're going to talk about is the weak intuitive thinking and the big picture thinking. So our population, the kids we're talking about today, often have difficulty inferring the unwritten social rules. Walk into a social situation, not understand what's expected generally or what other people are expecting of them, and so it's hard to execute. They don't know what to do or how to act, which can cause social miscues, misunderstandings. Some of the kids who we work with are challenged to intuitively learn from their mistakes. The reason is they may not be taking in information effectively through their social channels. And so the feedback loop from the world usually tells people how to act. When you're 4 years old, if you're poking someone to get attention and that peer says, no, stop. And maybe you have that 2 or 3 times, peer pushes you away, you realize, oh, first, this peer doesn't want me to do this. Second, this peer won't want me to do it later. And third, I'm going to infer that no one wants me to poke to get attention. The feedback loop from the environment teaches the neurotypical individual, the person who has, or who at least doesn't have this social challenge. So we have to do some direct instruction to help kids learn and read the social cues to learn, okay? And it's hard sometimes for our clients to maintain the big picture of socialization because of the details. The big picture is it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to include both people. Both people are supposed to leave the social situation satisfied. So here is the beginning of how we teach it. And again, this concept is true for everyone. And we will just make it really simple for kids. But we call it the team for fun. The team for fun concept establishes that everyone wants, when they're in the social world, whether it's social, hanging out, you're at the deli, you're at the library, everyone wants fun, but fun is kid code for I want to feel good, I want to feel relaxed and even, right? I want to feel respected. So what does everyone want? Everyone wants to have fun, feel good. And so we have this poster where we say, well, what if 2 people are together? How many people are we hoping are having fun? 2. What if it's 4 people? Well, we hope that all 4 are having fun and feeling good, feeling comfortable with each other. What if there are 7 people? And so on. So what's the pattern? We're hoping in a group that everyone is basically feeling good, feeling comfortable, right? Feeling respected, and so on. But whose job is it to keep it fun for all? That is everyone's job. This is a trick question. So for younger kids, they might point to the grown-up, the teacher, the leader, saying, it's your job to keep it fun. But actually our point is, it's each of your job. It's your job, your job, your job, your job, your job. It's all of your jobs to keep it fun for all the entire time you're together. So this goes, if you are employed, if you are at a job site, if you're in college, if you're on the sports field, wherever you are, everyone is responsible to keep each other happy and comfy. So we have this team for fun agreement. Okay, this is the unwritten social contract that most people, probably the bell-shaped curve of the world, does seem to infer. They figure it out that we, whatever group you're in or what couple you're with, we're going to try to stay close together by keeping each other happy and comfortable. That's it. This little line that I just wrote holds together marriages, friendships. When businesses work well, it's because they've all unwittingly, non-verbally signed on to this agreement. We're going to try to stay close together in this team, in this class, in this relationship, and keep each other happy and comfortable. Okay, so we teach our clients that there are two jobs on this team for fun, on this agreement, this contract. Half the time you're doing number one, you're keeping yourself happy and calm. And the other half of the time, you're keeping other people happy or calm and regulated, right? So here we have our two potato people. We have these two guys, and we nicknamed them Mr. Tool and Mr. Gift for a reason that's going to make sense in a minute. And so they're together, they're close together, they are the team for fun. They're on that contract. But then the person on the right starts to hum a tune. He's humming, he gets this earworm, it's stuck in his head, he can't stop thinking about the song. He can't stop singing it. And so, but then it starts to bother Mr. Tool. And you can see there are some red dots on the right bottom side of Mr. Tool. And so he goes, well, can this team for fun survive? Can they stay together? Can they stay close together? If he's irritated, it's almost as if the one on the right developed all these little red spikes, which you can see they're now crossed out, but these red spikes on the bottom. And so they can't stay together. So instantly, this contract, this agreement is tested. So it activates rule number one for Mr. Gift. You have to keep yourself calm and happy and regulated. So can he use his words? Can you please stop humming? Great job by Mr. Gift. Then the responsibility goes over to the next person. Mr. Tool at first. Mr. Gift now has a job to do. He has to think to himself, I am going to change my behavior to keep you happy. I want to keep you happy. I want to keep this relationship going. I want to stay close together. I want you to think good things about me. So I'm going to change my behavior to keep you happy. So stops humming. And that's why we have those icons in the bottom right within Mr. Gift. Those same spikes that were outside, he's pulled inside on the right, or maybe he directs him somewhere else. He'll hum later, right? I don't have to hum right now. He adjusted his behavior. Congratulate them both. They were on the team for fun. And essentially, this is what every relationship is all day long. All day long, you are oscillating between these two roles. Half the time you're keeping yourself happy and regulated and calm. You're using your calming down skills. You're using your words, your problem solving. Those are your tools. And then on the other side, you're giving gifts. We call them gift behaviors. When you think about other people's needs and feelings, and you adjust your behavior to keep them happy or keep them comfortable. Okay. And this is just a visual that we have when we show kids that it's not just two people, but it's entire groups. They're together. They're trying to stay together as the team for fun. They're on the contract. Adjust your behavior. Hey, can you please stop? Sure, I'll adjust to keep you comfy. All right, so this applies to groups as well. We want the group to stay together. Okay. So those lessons help with illuminating the unwritten rules of socialization. The next SECC, social emotional cognitive challenge, or that gap, is theory of mind and prolonged egocentrism. And so theory of mind is an awareness and an acceptance in your head that other people have different thoughts, feelings, and motivations than I do. We can't be flexible. We can't flex for other people if we don't acknowledge that they have a different feeling or motivation than me. If we minimize it, if we say, that's stupid, you shouldn't feel that way, we're not accepting that they have different thoughts, feelings, and motivations. If you have prolonged egocentrism, you approach the world in terms of trying to get your own needs met over the needs of others. A lot of kids that we work with have this, I call it prolonged, because egocentrism is expected. It's typical in infants through like kindergarten, and then around ages 5, 6, and 7, between 7 and 8, usually egocentrism is on the wane, and kids can consider problems from multiple perspectives. So that's expected, but a lot of the kids that we work with who have SECCs may last longer in egocentrism into later elementary school, some people middle school. I'm sure you probably know someone in your life at work or somewhere else who are adults and they're still egocentric and they always try to get their needs met over the needs of others. They don't consider other needs. The other piece of this is with egocentrism is tension relief. The person is often trying to avoid discomfort, right? So think about the infant who cries, right? They're hungry, infant cries because they have the tension. Parent notices, feeds the infant, and then the infant stops crying, right? There's tension that causes them to communicate, and then there's relief. And so a lot of the kids that we work with have this relief, this tension piece, whether it's anxiety or a need to feel regulated. And so that's why it also might fuel them to be focused a little more on getting their needs met, because being frustrated all the time is really intolerable. It's a really uncomfortable feeling. But the outcome of that is the person can look less empathetic, right? You might not think about other people's feelings as much. So it is important in socialization to develop this skill. And there's a secondary gain with teaching theory of mind, and that is that when you realize that other people have different thoughts, feelings, and interests, then it'll help your conversation skills. It'll also help your play skills, because you'll balance playing what you want or talking about what you want with doing things that other people want to do. So a lot hinges on understanding this. So here we go. Here comes core social awareness and skill number 2. And we teach theory of mind with the phrase, different kids have different minds. We already established in poster number 1 that everybody wants fun. But the new question now is, does everybody get their fun exactly the same way? So the answer is no, because different people have different minds. Let's prove it. So with our clients, with the kids that we work with, we'll make a chart like this, and you'll see those 3 different smiley faces, each with a different color over their head. That's not a hat, that's not hair, that's an X-ray. So that's a brain. So we have orange brain, purple brain, and red brain. Okay, and so we got volunteers from the group to say, well, what's one thing you like to play? And this one person says, video game 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗄. Purple brain says, freeze tag. So we go, time out, hold on. Can the 2 of you be in the same room? Do you guys, should one of you insult the other person? That's stupid. And they go, well, no. Right? Very logical when we're talking about it in the comfort of a social skills group. And okay, the 2 of you, red brain likes Rampage. Should you reject that or insult Rampage at a game that he likes? You go, no. How come? You go, because it's okay if people have different minds, different thoughts or interests. Right, so we need to make sure that we are acting as though it is okay. Make it okay that different people have different minds. So it's okay, you can like that. You can have a different opinion than me, right? There seems to be one key social skill that's missing in the world right now. People seem to have a hard time respecting different people's opinions. And that's one of the reasons things are polarized and there's so much tension. So I think this would be a great lesson to publicize worldwide. The second row across is something that annoys you. And there's a reason why we cover this as well in this poster, because we want to find out what's in people's minds that they don't like. Orange brain said, really loud noises bother me. So I'll ask the group, once you find out what's in someone's mind that they don't like, what should you do? Should you do more of that or less of that? Right? And they go, less of that. So stop when kids say stop. So there's 3 lessons that come out of just this different kids have different minds concept. 1, make it okay, right? Accept different ideas. Don't insult them, don't minimize them or poo-poo. And then do more of things that make kids happy, that make people comfortable. And then when you find out what they don't like, stop doing that, right? Don't do that. So that right there becomes a guide and can help kids begin to make really effective social decisions so that they're not bothering people. And we also highlight that if 2 people have similar ideas, let's say purple brain and red brain both said freeze tag, you go, oh my gosh, we'll circle that and say, the 2 of you, you just found out that both of you like that. What can you do with that? You can play together. You can talk about it. You can plan get-togethers outside to play freeze tag, right? So this is the use of the different kids have different minds. And then you end, whenever you start talking about this, we're talking about ideas. This is the social awareness piece. But then the skill is, it's something that you would see the child either do or say. So can you tell the child to Show me that you understand that different kids have different minds. Say, it's okay, you can have your idea. So then you would hear the child say that. So we want to have behaviors come out of these as well. These are all actionable lessons, okay? Related to this, still understanding the big picture of socialization and freeing kids' minds up to think in the big picture as opposed to the smaller details. If then, action, reaction. So what we're teaching with this poster is social cause and effect. When I do a behavior, it causes a reaction in someone else, right? And so we'll start off by talking about the top left, we have a teeter-totter, and sometimes we'll even make a makeshift one. We'll have a little, a serving spoon or a shovel or something like a sand shovel with a little fulcrum in the middle. And then we'll say, we'll put a ball on one end and we'll say, okay, what happens if we strike that on this side? What's the ball gonna do? The ball's gonna go flying, right? So you can do a little experiential if you have the tools at home or where you work. So you can really bring it to life, that action, reaction, for every action, there's usually an equal reaction. And then we teach this magic formula, and it's an if-then formula. If I do blank, then blank will happen. This is crucial because most kids that we work with lack this walking in the door on the first day. So if I act blank, if I can put a great behavior in that golden line, the behavior line, then kids will think something about me. They'll feel something and do something. How do you want kids to think about you? What kind of reactions do you want to get? Positive ones? Well, then let's think about what would be, let's think about their feelings, because different kids have different minds. What might make this person think great things about you? So then you'll start to plug different behaviors into that golden line. Like, let's say you're playing checkers and you're starting to lose. You hate losing. So the first behavior is you're losing, you flip the board and say, you cheated, I hate to play with you, right? What are the kids gonna think about you, your playmate? He's gonna think he's a sore loser. He's gonna feel frustrated because he couldn't finish the game that he was winning. And he might walk away and he might not wanna play with you next time. So is that the outcome you want? No? Okay, well, let's think about this. Could you put a different behavior in that golden line? So let's think about this. Maybe you can finish out the game and you can play and say, finish out the game and then say, good game, you wanna play again? Then you play it out with the kid through the other lines. Think, feel, do. Think, well, the kids will think he's a good sport. He's fun to play with. Feel, they'll feel good about you. And then do, they might ask you to play again that day or next time. So the takeaway is action, reaction, think about your behaviors just a little bit harder. And I know this is hard for kids who are impulsive, but you have to start with the concept. We have to at least introduce it. And then if your child is really stuck and having a hard time executing, perhaps you could add a reward system. We'll actually be talking about that in 2 weeks. The next time I present, we'll be talking about ways to do the positive reinforcement of these types of skills. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, the next area of social cognitive challenges is not reading or misreading social cues, right? This is a hallmark of kids who have social challenges. And sometimes they have what I call an undisciplined use of their eyes. They don't always have their eyes trained on exactly the right stimulus in the room. It might be an inanimate object. It might be a person's belly button. It might be looking at the wrong thing. Squirrel. So where are their eyes? Also, figure ground confusion. Some kids who have attention issues, they have a hard time figuring out what is the most important thing in the room to pay attention to. Sometimes it's something that's more interesting. If they have short attention span, if they're seeking that visual stimulation, then they might not focus on the right thing. So what's in it for you? If you can send your eyes to the person, then you can consider other people's feelings. Once you consider other people's feelings, then you can use different people of different minds. Okay, he has a different mind. Do things that bothers them less. Do things that they like more. Right. So this is the next step that's really crucial. Think about others with your eyes. Okay, and so we talk about in this picture, top left, there's a picture of a head that only has the most important organs that we need for this lesson, the eyes, and then there's a direct connection to the brain, okay? And so we have the brain, the eyes are hot wired right to the brain. So you can think about other people with your eyes. And so we'll do a couple of exercises with kids. They're fun to do. I'll take off my glasses for this. So we start off by making little pointers with your fingers and say, what am I thinking about? You know, I'm thinking about you right now. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the clock. So, and then you can flip it and have the child first use pointers, and they could think about you. Think about things in the room. And you play this game where faster and faster, you're having the child zip their eyes around the room. And then eventually you have them take away the training wheels, you can take away the hands, and now you can zip your eyes around the room and you can focus on different things. So you're teaching the child to get control over your eyes. Tell your eyes exactly what to focus on. And so if you are a team for fun and you're thinking about other people's feelings, what are you focusing on? Well, the people. And so then here we have, you can answer the questions what and how with your eyes. When you go outside for recess, you know, send your eyes around the field. Okay, there's 2 kids over there playing soccer. What are they doing? Is soccer fun for me? 2 kids are on the ground, they're playing cards. Maybe it's Yu-Gi-Oh. Is that fun for me? There's 3 kids who I know, they're talking. Where do I want to go? So it's a way to break down unstructured situations with your eyes. What are they doing? What's fun for me? Who is fun for me? The other thing that you do with your eyes and your brain is to read social cues. You can begin to think about how people feel once you send your eyes to people. Now, parenthetically, I want to say that we never force kids to make eye contact. That can be very flooding, very overwhelming for kids with SECCs at times. So you don't have to ask for that, but check in. Can you check in with me with your eyes? Check into me. So, you know, send your eyes up. Okay, just take a quick look at what I'm saying. I'm giving you directions. Okay, you can look away. So just check in is some language that you can say. We use the terminology. Think about me with your eyes. Okay, think about this lesson. Okay, and so you can think about other people's feelings. Okay, and then by extension, you care about others with your eyes. And so here's a frontal view. Here's the eyes, and we have the direct connection to the brain. And so we expand it in the next week, and we talk about how your ears are also going to listen, and we start talking about nonverbal social cues. Our gang can be very literal, and they are listening and hanging on the words, literally the words that you're using, so they can be very concrete about that. And but what changes the meaning isn't the words, but it's someone's tone of voice and their body language. So we'll talk on the left, we have a high sing-songy voice. If my voice is going up and down like this, I'm probably excited, I'm probably happy, right? My voice is going up and down, I'm joking around. Then there's the medium indoor voice. That's the voice that I'm using with you. My medium indoor voice is just transmitting information. It's direct, it's straight to you, straight to your ears. But then the bottom one, the red little icon there, has a low, loud voice. There are these jagged lines coming out. So we help to show visually to the kids a low voice, sharp, like this. It's firm, maybe it's angry, right? It's harsh, it's sharp. So that's going to change the meaning. So if a kid says, oh, you're such a dork, but it's sing-songy, is that mean or are they joking? So we begin to help kids to read the social cues and then modify their understanding based on tone of voice. And then same thing, the bottom right pictures are all different postures. And so we'll start to play charades. Play charades with your kids. It's fine to do things that are just like nouns and objects, dog, cat, horse, whatever, driving a car. But then throw in all different feeling words. And so and then act it out. And it's great for the child to act it out because then they have to embody that and they can start to try to get into that role and see what it feels like in their body to act it out. Then also they have to guess what you're doing. So charades is a great way to help to practice this. Okay. Next, we're coming to the big ticket item. Rigid and flexible thinking makes it hard to adjust your behavior to keep other people happy, to cope with changes, to shift your expectations to decrease frustration. The number one reason for frustration is our expectations. And if you are inflexible, if you're stuck on what you expect, how you expect something to go, you're going to be frustrated. And if you're rigid and inflexible, that makes it hard to negotiate and compromise. So almost all of social and academic and professional success requires a measure of flexibility. So turning that hard thing flexible. And so we need to get into this, and we have a way to talk about flexibility with our clients. And we call that being bendy. All right, and we compare and contrast the inflexible, the mighty oak tree that has a very strong, very rigid wood, with the palm tree that has a softer wood that flexes. And we see in the Northeast where I live, we have trees that all, shatter. They split, they fall during storms. You can see little gray wind lines next to the oak tree. Well, people's feelings can snap as well. Well, how does someone's feelings snap? They get mad, frustrated, scream and cry. Maybe they say angry things. So we work that out with the kids, that the mighty oak tree, yes, it's powerful and strong, but it's brittle, it snaps. If you or if someone around you is inflexible, is not bendy, you are going to snap. Or if you're not flexible, the other person's going to snap. So someone's going to break if you're not flexible. On the other hand, we have the flexy, bendy palm tree, right? Down in Florida, in the Caribbean, hurricanes blow through. Well, what does the bendy, flexible tree do? It bends, 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 bends. Here comes the wind. And then when the storm's over, it stands back up, tall and proud. So the bendy, flexible tree is ideal. And if your mind can be bendy, can be flexible, then you and other people around you won't snap either. So there's sort of just the concept, and then we go with some language that the kids can learn to use. And we talk about some of the language that goes into inflexibility, and it's all extreme words. I only want things to go my way, egocentric, my way, always. So what does that mean? Every single time, everything always has to go my way. There's no other condition that's acceptable, so I'm going to snap. So I'm going to get really mad. I must have it now, right? Must is an absolute word. Must means I will die without this. What must we have? Food, water, shelter, air, right? Must I have 15 more minutes of iPad time? No, but if you think must, then you're going to act as if you're going to die without it. And now is also the only condition that's acceptable. I have to have it now. So then we go to the bottom and we try to work with kids on coming up with some more flexible, bendy words and thoughts. And you can see that we have the ones that are put into these rectangles. So sometimes is a very bendy word. Maybe I can get it later. And later is a flexible word. So sometimes things go my way and sometimes they don't. I'll survive. I'll be okay. So you can work it out with your child, have them script the fix. So I'll pre-write the ones on the top, 1, 2, and 3 on the top. Then I'll have the child write the solutions on the bottom. Only I will sort of prime the pump and I'll pre-write the word sometimes and maybe at the beginning of a sentence. So what's the opposite of number 1 up top? I only want things to go my way, always? Okay, let's start this with sometimes. And that's how we get to that. I can get a turn later. Sometimes later, maybe. And then if you have a reward system at home, you're listening for those times when your child says, well, maybe I can have it later. And then you're giving tokens, you're giving whatever your economy is for a reward system. But again, one more plug for the next presentation I'm going to do. It's also going to be on the Art of Friendship YouTube channel as well. So I taught this for a year or two, and then it became apparent that some kids, even with the concept and the words, still didn't know mechanically what to do in their head to execute bendiness, how literally to do flexibility. And so then I came up with another lesson, and this is the one where I told them mechanically in their mind, using a little metaphor and some creative sound effects, how you can be flexible. And this is appropriate again. Think of yourself, think of another adult who needs this. Here's how we can be flexible. So the story goes, whatever you're thinking about or whatever you're doing is in the front of your mind, your forehead. So you can see I have that star in the front of the head's mind, right? The front, that's what's on your desktop right now. So what I'm thinking about is what I'm doing. In the back of your mind, back here, there's all the other things that you know, all your memories, all your solutions, and you're not using them right now. So if you are inflexible, that thought in the front of your mind is stuck. You have sticky thinking. And sometimes sticky thinking is not helpful. At school, when the teacher says, hey, time to put away your math books and get out your spelling books, right? If you're stuck in math, you're going to transition slowly. If you're trying to get out of the house and your child is dragging his or her feet, same thing. So here's how you use this lesson. So we teach kids, okay, whatever's in the front of your mind, sometimes that's not the most helpful thing for the moment. If your parents are saying, put on your shoes, grab your jacket, we're going to walk out the door to the car, but you have a video game in the front of your mind, you're not going to get off your video game to transition. So take video game out of the front of your mind, boink, and move it to the back of your mind, and then pull a new helpful thought. What's the task at hand? Shoes on, jacket, go out to the car. And you can move that to the front of your mind. So now that's mechanically being bendy, changing your mind on purpose. And why would you do that? Because it's good for you and because it's good for the group. Sometimes that alone can help a child to get unstuck sometimes, just knowing mechanically how to do it. And then other times you might, again, need to add, build in some other reinforcers as well to help the child learn how to be flexible. But it's not going to rewire your child's brain to suddenly become this totally easygoing person. Your child will still be wired in their inflexible way, but on demand and mechanically, they can be flexible as needed. Okay? So being bendy, being flexible. All right. Next, we're going to talk about pragmatic language. We're getting towards the end, and pragmatic language challenges causes kids to have trouble with assertiveness, so they can't get their needs met. They're not using the words to say, like, I need help to a teacher or to a child. I'd like a turn. Sometimes they hold it in. Maybe they don't have the words to say. Maybe they have the words, but they don't initiate for whatever reason, anxiety or just not a habit yet. Weak problem-solving skills requires generating options. Kids who don't problem solve well either come up with no solutions or they only come up with one solution, and then they work that solution and they try that solution over and over, harder and harder, louder and louder. And so we want to help kids learn how to generate multiple solutions, more on that in a second. And then they might have trouble with negotiation and compromise, partly related to the language aspect of it, knowing the words to say, and then also flexibility that we just talked about is a core skill to build up to these three things: assertiveness, problem solving, and negotiation and compromise. So here is instant assertiveness. And this is another take with our special language and visual having to do with I statements. These are statements that are taught in marriage counseling, in guidance for generations, for decades. They talk about I statements, I messages. Our take on it is this: you, our client, you have vast power deep within yourself. And that power lies within your core. So here you are, right here, your chest. And so here in your core, in your center, that's your power. But it's not physical power. It's not might. You're not going to hurt someone or dominate them. It's power with your words. So how does it work? When you talk at all, when you use your words, your lungs push air up through your airway, up through your throat. Your throat makes the sound, ah, and your mouth and tongue form the words. So out it comes. Your power is your words. And you're most powerful when you take your finger and point to yourself. The power of I. Point to your core, your center, and you say, I feel confused, right? I feel stressed. That alone, if you say that to a teacher or a parent or caregiver, suddenly they're there to help you. That's the beginning of problem solving right there, and you can get help. If you don't have that, you're stuck, you're inside, your frustration rises, and maybe you'll blow, or maybe you'll withdraw and give up. So the beginning is pointing to yourself, the power, I feel this. I need a break, right? I want to turn. I'd like to be first in line once in a while, right? So I. Now, if your child has more advanced language, you don't have to stick with this really tight script. But for those kids who are not producing it, this is an automatic way to not have to think too much creatively about all the language. And instead, your child can just have this basic script structure. I feel, I need, I want. So the power of I. And we contrast that with the boo of you, because some kids, when they're being assertive, it comes out aggressively. And so when they point out at other people, it comes off as blaming, and perhaps they are getting people defensive. You always do this. You never do that. You're a beep. So we want kids to avoid the boo of you. The ideal time to use the word you, Y-O-U, is when you're complimenting someone. Give them a compliment. You're such a great friend. You're so funny. Those are great things for kids to say to each other. You is for compliments, not for assertiveness. So point to yourself, use the power of I. So this can be the beginning of practice. Next, I want to share 2 ways to compromise. This sometimes is really hard to just describe verbally to kids. It's a little bit abstract, so we make it visual, we put it on paper, and now the kids can really understand their task. So you can see top right, we have a bendy palm tree. So this is one of the ways that you can act flexible with peers. And the top left is this gift. This is one of the gifts where you can adjust your behavior to keep people comfortable with you. So compromise. Mix your ideas together in the idea pot. So in this story, we have orange brain and we have purple friend. And each of them starts off with a different idea. And my idea, says orange friend. Purple, my idea. They're far apart. Their ideas are different. But if they're going to be that team for fun, if they're going to get close together and keep this interaction, play date, group project working, they're going to have to take steps in towards the middle from their polarized positions. But you know, so imagine your idea as liquid. It's in this idea cup. And with each step they take closer to the center, the idea pot, maybe they spill a little bit out, some drops fall out of their cup, which is natural when you're walking with liquid. Same thing when you're compromising. So you might have to give up a little bit of your idea, and then you walk closer, you pour it into the idea pot, and you can combine ideas. So the first way, and in fact, I would suggest the default, the first option always should be, let's see if we can combine our ideas. One kid wants to play with blocks, and another kid wants to play with dinosaurs. How could they combine those, mix those ideas together? Someone has to say, we'll use a little of your idea and a little of my idea. Mix them together, and then they might say, well, let's make a dinosaur zoo, and I'll build the habitats out of blocks, and you can put the dinosaurs in, you know? So that's a way that they can stay together. Mix your ideas together in the idea pot. Now, some ideas can't be blended. You know, one kid wants to play with blocks, the other person wants to go outside and play basketball, shoot hoops, right? It's really hard to blend those. You're not going to be throwing blocks in the hoop. It's a little dangerous. And so balance the scales of fun. And again, this comes down to taking turns, but for kids who are very concrete, the abstract idea of not getting my turn creates a sense of desperation. And the kids are like, oh no, I'm going to be tense, right? Remember tension relief I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to get my need met. So we have to prove to the child with a balance scale going back and forth. You're going to have to go back and forth. Let's take turns. How about if you have a turn and then I'll have a turn? And we'll have the balance scale tip up and down, back and forth each time 2 volunteers practice, show that it's okay. If one person gets a turn, don't freak out. You can use your power of I and make sure that you get that turn after on the back end. Right? You can also structure it up front. Let's take turns. How about if you have a turn? How about we do your idea first, and then we'll do my idea. And then after the first turn is gone, then you use your power of I. Hey, I want to make sure that I get my idea out. So that's how you do it. So balance scales of fun. First, mix your ideas together in the idea pot if possible. If your ideas are too far apart, then sequence. Let's make sure you get all of your idea, and I'm going to flex myself. I'm going to be flexible and bendy to do your idea, and then You're going to do the same for me. Why? Because we are on the team for fun. We're both on this contract. We want this play date, this relationship to go well. All right. Now we are up to the final poster of the evening, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So this is problem solving. Remember I mentioned that kids with SECCs may not list or generate options. And so they get frustrated if their first option doesn't work, then they might melt down, they might get upset or give up. And so we begin in story form to make it concrete, and we'll say, okay, here you are on your road of life, your road to happiness. You know, we all have some objective, even if we're doing homework, you know, well, on the back end, I want to get my fun relaxation time. I want to get my play time. And so here you are after school on a weekday, life's obstacle course. Okay. In life's obstacle course, all day long, some mysterious hand of fate keeps dropping things on our path. You get home from school, you have a snack. Well, don't forget there's homework. That's an obstacle. You have to get past that obstacle in order to get to your relaxation time. So you have options. You know, certainly your child, and if you're with us in this talk, maybe your child melts down about homework or refuses initially. Maybe there's 45 minutes of debate and negotiation and resistance before the child buckles down. So we can say to the child, you know, yes, you have this obstacle, but so you can sit there and you can cry about it. You could stare at it and yell and scream. You could yell and scream at the hand of fate that dropped that, you know, that teacher was so mean giving us so much homework. Or you could even give up and walk away. But you're no closer to your happiness, right? To your free time. You still have to get past your obstacle. So in this picture, we say, well, literally just in the picture, concretely, what are some ways this drawn person can get past this boulder that's in his way? So the child says, you know, over, around, under, and through. You know, let's say there's like a digger tool that can blast their way through this obstacle. So over, around, under, through. There are 4 options right there. And then you have to weigh which would be the most effective and efficient way to get across it. That's problem solving. And so we work with kids and we have this poster. And again, you will receive this in your email just for registering. We'll send this to you, I believe, tomorrow. And so you'll have a PDF of all these slides as a reminder. And so with this poster, there's a line in that boulder and it says, that's where you name it. You have to name your problem to tame it. Name it to tame it. So what is this challenge? Okay, homework. Okay, well, what are 4 options past it? I can do 15 minutes at a time and take a 5-minute break every 15 minutes. I could power through it. I could start it right when I get home from school so that it's done, you know, whatever. So generate this list of options. Ideally, we want your child to try to generate those options. Try not to rescue, try not to fill in the blanks and answer them for your child, because we want your child to do the weightlifting, right? To strengthen their brain, to strengthen their problem solving skills. So you want your child to do it. Now, just out of experience, some kids will begin by saying, well, I could blow it up, or they could say something like outrageous, you know, that's completely not an actual problem solution. But if you start to screen, right, or censor some of them early, that'll discourage the child, and that might be what they want when they say outrageous things. So I will write down and number 1, blow up school, you know, whatever. Obviously, that's not going to be the one that we work with. Child will say a second one, maybe another outrageous one. And then I'll say, okay, we got a couple of really wild ones. Now let's do some things that are like really realistic, right? That really you might be able to do and not get in trouble for. List number 3 and 4. And then you say, okay, which one of these do you think will work best? Let's make that plan A, and we'll make the other one plan B. Plan it, try it, okay, let me know how it works. Your child has just done problem solving. It's helpful to use a visual like this the first number of times because it makes it concrete. But once your child gets the hang of it, you can start to do the problem solving just verbally. And you can say, okay, let's list 3 to 4 options. How can you handle this? And so that's what it can turn into once you get good at it. All right. So in conclusion, poster, we have all these lessons. And my goal was for you to maybe take away one or two or more that you think would be most helpful for the child you're thinking of tonight. And just knowing the top left image is that everyone has all these different social skills, these social awarenesses and skills on sliders, and some are weaker. And our job is first to teach. We're going to teach them the social skills. And then life is their own social skills group. And so social practice happens just by the child living, going through his or her life and schedule. And then it's the adults in the child's life that are the coaches. And the next two presentations that I'm going to offer, one in 2 weeks and one in 4 weeks, are going to be two aspects of how to be the social coach really effectively. Next time, we're going to talk about how you can positively reinforce and motivate the child to repeat and repeat positive social skills and keep a positive cycle, how you can give social coaching in a really positive way, in a very compassionate way that doesn't grind the child's soul and spirit. And then in a month, I'm going to come back to talk about how you can use behavioral techniques, rewards, consequences to shape behaviors to get more positive coping skills going and to fade out unacceptable or unwanted behaviors. Okay, and so that is our presentation for tonight. And at this point, I want to open it up to question and answer. And you can, let's see, I'm going to pull up the chat. You can chat me. Or you can unmute yourself. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, let me stop the share. All right, and here we go. Does anyone have any questions for me? Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. We have someone who raised their hand. Okay, hold on. Do I have a version of this for young teens? Yes. In our social skills program, we have all these same concepts, and we then just modify the language, and so it isn't quite as cute. Still, we make it very concrete. But yes, we have a teen version, and the teen version actually starts with the second slide. We call it your reputation project. Remember the one that said action reaction, right? It was if you do blank, then blank will happen. We call that your reputation project for teens, and that's the beginning of social skills. So the whole theme there isn't team for fun, so to speak, but it is your reputation project. So yeah, and let's see. Someone raised their hand. Gili, feel free to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Sure, it was actually similar to the one that was put in the chat. So I have two teenagers, and one of them can hear me right now, so I might have to modify my question.
Okay.
But, I think because of COVID and being away from other human children for so long, there's this feeling of finally we're in school, look at all these kids. And the problem is less connecting with the kids and pleasing the kids, and more how do you do that without breaking adult rules?
So yeah, so that probably sounds like the child is trying to be maybe a little outrageous or is trying too hard to connect. Is that a fair interpretation?
The close enough. I'd be curious to hear your answer to that.
Yeah,
that's
so
not exactly, but I also want it to be general so that other people can answer the question.
You know, so being outrageous, pushing the limit sometimes is a way to get attention, right? And so we would actually put that into the matrix of that, the action reaction social cause and effect piece. Okay, what reputation do you want to have? Yes, you might get their attention, and kids might not want to be rude to you to your face, but behind it, they might, in private or behind the scenes, behind your back, roll their eyes and be like, oh my gosh, can you believe he said that or she said that? So illuminating the hidden thoughts and, in someone else's different mind is helpful. You can do it through speech. You can talk about it. We always make it visual. If you can turn something into a cartoon, cartoons are wonderful because you can always put thought bubbles in to reveal what people are probably thinking, that it's invisible. So you also, might, we just always go visual, partly because of our background, but also it's worked for us. And so talking about it in those terms, yes, in the moment you might get attention, but what reputation do you want? How do you want people to think about you? There's another bit of conversation that we've had with some kids who they see rude or outrageous people on TV or comedians or on YouTube, and they go, yes, I love them. They are funny. They are edgy. They're awesome. So they want to emulate them. But some of our clients in social skills don't realize that they are not in a sitcom, right? They can't walk around being that most outrageous, sarcastic, pushing person, because that's okay in the context of that fake sitcom, right? Where there's a totally rude person who's just, sarcastic and busting wise. There's going to be negative impact on your reputation. So, but a lot of talk about reputation and people's hidden thoughts, I think, would be the way to go. Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. Who else? Let's see, there's something that came in from a chat. Hey, Paul. With the compromise skill, the recipe idea, which is great. If a child is being oppositional and keeps persisting so that no other ideas are acceptable, what direction can you go then? All right, couple of responses to that. We've got a lesson for that. We've got a poster. I don't have it on my fingertips, but we talk about getting stuck. Your friend keeps throwing out ideas. Hey, how about we do this? How about we do that? And you keep saying, no, no, no. Neither of you are playing, right? Now you're just locked in this long negotiation. So 2 ways to think about it. One, the little picture is you could win this argument, but are you going to win the friendship? So what are you winning here is one way to talk about it with a child. We've had that conversation with kids up into their teens, and probably as young as probably 3rd grade. Would you rather win this argument, right, or win a friendship? Second piece is there's when people get stuck, we have this social lesson called get unstuck from disagreements. And so someone, if you're back and forth, if you're stuck in this negotiation land and people keep rejecting each other's ideas, someone's going to get frustrated anyway. But as soon as someone feels that frustration, that's the clue right there in their body. We're stuck. So someone has to say, we are stuck. And then the second line, part 2 of that is, how about? Someone needs to say, how about we try something else, right? Ultimately, if your child, you the audience member tonight, is your child is the stuck one, the consequence is that play is going to break down. If this is a play date, you might have to, if you're listening to this, you might need to pull your child away from the play date for a minute and encourage the other child to entertain him or herself for a minute. And you do a little coaching and say, you're stuck. And you seem to say no to everything that they're saying, but you're not changing your idea. So can you say, how about we do something different? But don't say the same thing, because again, that goes back to problem solving, not generating multiple options. And so it's the options piece I would say that you'd want to do, you'd want to push. And sometimes on a play date, taking that break, I think we all feel like, oh, we want this to work. We want this social moment to work. So we keep shoving the kids together. But I think there's something to be said and gained in actually taking that short pause. The other child will be okay. You can also take a step to make sure that the other child has something to do, that can occupy them briefly. Hey, I'm just going to borrow my son for a second, my daughter. right? Pull them apart, and then you can work it out. All right. Nice question. Yeah. Let's see. Thank you. Another big challenge. And thank you for this presentation. Another big challenge I have with my young teens is that I sense that there are relational challenges, but I am the absolute last person that they want to talk about the challenges with. And if I offer other people or options because I was the one suggesting it, then it's automatically a terrible idea. And how do I know what's young teen and what's ADHD? Well, there's like 12 loaded questions in that one. Good, challenging question. Let's see. Let me take it step by step. So your kids, okay, your kids don't want to talk to you about the challenges, but if you offer solutions, then it's a terrible idea because it comes from you. Okay. Well, so how do I know if that's just being young teen and what's ADHD? You can barely tease that out because those traits, those responses could come from either and both. So it's probably not either or, but I would just say and. But as far as what to do about it, you can say, what we do with teens is to talk about what's in it for you and what do you want for yourself. So I know it's, so question form is the way to go. Like if we offer a lot of solutions, then that gives the child something to push back on. It's almost like we're planting a flag called solutions. And they're like, no, you're not taking this land, right? They want to push back on any solution that we offer. But if you do something in question form, it's harder for them to push back on it. So asking a couple questions like, okay, I want to have a different talk with you than usual. I'm not going to offer any solutions, but just what do you want for yourself socially? Like, what kind of friendships do you want? What kind of blah, blah, blah. And so you start to get their goals or their aspirations. And then you can ask, is there anything that you're finding that's getting in the way of that? See if you can elicit their pain, because pain and pleasure, those are two main motivators for teens. And if they can suddenly sort of feel as though they're arriving at this decision themselves, they might be more open to it, right? As opposed to coming from you. So question form gets them doing the thinking. And so what do you think? So this is your goal. You want these friendships, but you're finding these things are hard, right? Or these things are getting in the way. What do you think? Do you think this is something that you can navigate by yourself, or do you think it might be good to talk to someone? Like, what do you think? What do you think? So not what I'm thinking as the parent. So this is just some language. It's not quite up. It's not like, reverse psychology, but it has a little bit of that connotation. But it's putting the power in the child who's trying to be powerful. There's power in no, in saying no. But then question form, they're not saying no, and you might get them thinking in a different way. So that's my first thought in terms of how to respond to the child who is shutting everything down. What's your desire? What's your pleasure? What's your pain? What do you think that, and can I help you get connected to someone? Is there someone at school who you think might be a solution who you can talk to? Part two of that answer, like some kids are out there talking to their friends about some of their challenges, or they're going online. And yes, that is an outlet, and it's not in and of itself a horrible thing. However, ultimately, those peers and kids aren't the ones who can really help them the best in many cases. So they might be sounding boards. They also might join your child in outrage. Oh, how dare they, right? But then they don't have the skill or the experience yet to really help in a meaningful way. So you might talk about that. Like, it's great that you're talking to all these people. That is awesome. But is that getting you where you want to go? Are they helping you enough? So that's more thought questions for your child. Is there someone else, maybe someone who has any more experience or training that you could think of? Someone at school, a guidance counselor, anyone that you respect to start. And maybe even, would you consider a therapist? I'm not saying you have to go, So that's what makes sense to me. Thanks, Paul. All right, we have a little more time. Any other questions, you can chat it, you can unmute yourself. I'm going to stop the recording at this point, so in case